Yeah, I have a concern in preface about what Governor Green was saying, that by mid-January, there's a deadline. And then after that, kind of a threat that the hammer will come down.
But I do want to be blunt here. If we don't get people stepping up, I'm going to drop the hammer on short-term rentals.
Now, I'm a vacation rental owner, and I have people that have booked my unit for over a year. They've already paid, many of them in full. They've already paid their balance. So where does that leave me as an owner?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a question between you and Governor Green.
Of the nuclear hammer is sometime in mid-January, if it's necessary. After New Year's, I'll take whatever action is necessary, honestly, to get people into the program. I will also tell you that taxes are going to go up on short-term rentals after the new year. So things have to change. And I'd like to change gradually, but if we have to shutter the system to get it going, I will. But it's my job to kind of take the hard position if our people aren't being cared for. And so that's what's coming. And it's going to come swiftly.
So I was here 2 weeks ago
Yes.
with 3 other property owners, friends of mine. So that's 4 of us with properties. And for the last 2 weeks, we haven't really gotten anywhere as far as, and we're trying to get people into our units. And it just seems there's a lot of misinformation. Right hand isn't talking to the left hand, and there's just a lot of, so in 2 weeks, we haven't gotten anywhere. And what we're trying to do is get people into our units.
So FEMA has awarded contracts to 3 property management companies.
The property managers listed as the property managers in the paperwork aren't licensed in the state of Hawaii.
So the property owners will enter into a contract with FEMA and the property management company and not the tenants.
Also exempts them from kind of important parts of real estate here, including the residential landlord tenant code.
Here, homeowners will feel much more, not that much more comfortable, 100% comfortable if our current property managers would handle with the FEMA. If you give them the same job, why FEMA real?
Yeah, so
we need to have a FEMA real.
I think we understand the issue of property management, but just let's go back a couple months where we had an industry day where we invited property managers here, where we put out a request for proposal that anyone on the island could apply to be a property manager for us. And we didn't receive, yes, we did it. It's official. Once the government goes out, it's for the record. We did do that. Okay, so let me just talk. You gotta let me talk because I'm gonna tell you what we did. And we didn't receive proposals.
At the time when we first opened up direct lease, there was an opportunity for management companies such as yourself to be part of direct lease at that time.
No.
Let me finish. That are going to facilitate the communication between the property owners and the rental units or the homes and for FEMA.
It's going to be aesthetic home investments. Our second table is going to be parliaments. And then our third is going to be Lima Charlie.
The property managers listed as the property managers in the paperwork aren't licensed in the state of Hawaii.
They don't live here, but we
Who
do.
doesn't? Who doesn't?
The property managers.
So
They're being brought in from elsewhere and they're taking housing so that they can manage the housing.
Which rules and codes you guys are using and following for your program? Because as far as we could tell, the property managers listed as the property managers in the paperwork aren't licensed in the state of Hawaii. And as far as we can tell, maybe there's an exception for it under the homeless programs of HRS 346. But that same section also exempts them from kind of important parts of real estate here, including the residential landlord tenant code. So we were hoping to get some answers on what codes and rules you guys would be following, because, owners want to know how their property will be managed more so than just more so than just what the basic policy is, what rules and laws are guiding it.
So what we're going to be able to do is, although I don't have all your answers regarding the policies here, that would have to be something that is vetted through our legal.
First of all, how are fines assessed and dealt with? Because any AOAO finds the owner, smoking being the big thing, at $250 a pop. The owner's the one that gets fined. How do we deal with that? Because that can really hurt.
That's a good question. Hasn't come up yet, but so when there is a violation that happens, and if there's any cost associated with it, that is something that the property managers will communicate to us. And that is something that we would have to pay.
And then I'm a little confused on how we work out. I understand nobody wants to pin a specific number to any property, but is it a triple net lease or a gross lease? A triple net lease being you pay me a base rent and then you pay all the other things like AOA, utilities. A gross lease is basically you pay me a number and then I pay everything else. Because one of the concerns here is I have a short-term rental. I don't have 100% occupancy. I have 80% occupancy. So when I figure out what my electric use is, it's based on my 80% and my 100% occupancy. And so that's the concern. If it's what in commercial settings calls a triple net lease is I get my rent and then you pay the electricity, you pay the AOA. Also, the concern is AOA fees usually go up. So if I'm factoring it into that gross lease, the number I get, what I get over time, it actually will be less.
Okay, so the amount that you are receiving once you sign that lease, it should cover what you're needing for that year. So that payment is going to you, right, for that unit. So that information of that cost, each one separately is determined in the parts of what is rent, which is separated from your taxes and all that, and the furniture, the utilities, some of them have cables, all that. But that one payment comes to you for you to disperse that out into those fields that you're referring to.
Okay, so it's a gross lease, and then I pay my bills
Yes.
from that.
Yes.
Okay, just a thought, you could really get hurt on utilities, especially with air conditioning. You know, if a person doesn't pay for utilities, open the window and turn on the air conditioning. I mean, I have this issue with short-term rentals also. So that's just a concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
At the time when we first opened up direct lease, there was an opportunity for management companies such as yourself to be part of direct lease at that time.
No.
Let me finish, please.
My question is, so they're taking the housing, they don't live here, but we
Who
do,
doesn't? Who doesn't?
the property managers.
So
They're being brought in from elsewhere and they're taking housing so that they can manage the housing.
I understand your concern. At the time when we first opened up direct lease, there was an opportunity for management companies such as yourself to be part of direct lease at that time.
No.
Let me finish. Excuse me, let me finish. So at that time, when we did open it up and it was to be part of contracting, you have to go through sam.gov. So there was a whole 30 days of getting the information out there to the community the best that we can to still quickly try to get the program up and running at that time so that we can begin start housing. So then now that we're here now, as we know and hear your concerns here right now, there may be another opportunity that we will be presenting for the local community to become part of this. But the first thing, and that's the reason why we have sam.gov here, is because we need to know how many property managers that are locally that want to become part of this program. So that is why we are here as well.
Okay. Sam.gov, I've never heard of that.
And that's why, and that is why we're here today, to kind of help you get through some of your questions with your units, because we do want to work with you. We do need your units, and we do want everyone to be part of this direct lease that can. So that's why we're giving the information out. So sam.gov, in order for me to write a contract with your property management company, we will walk you through how to get registered. Okay.
So I have, I've got several owners that I'm kind of representing that had questions. First was, one guy's got a pretty big mortgage on his. He's concerned about like when do you get paid from FEMA? Is it the first, his mortgage is due on the third? How does the payment work monthly?
That question can be answered by our property manager. We pay them, they invoice us. We pay
Okay.
them on a monthly basis.
Mhm.
We pay our property managers. Your need, when it is assessed by them, they can work out that agreement with you on how you're needing to be paid to make sure that those funds come to you in a proper
Timely
timely.
manner.
Yes,
Okay, then I got another question.
yes.
And then, so is this program available only to a condo or home, whatever, that is short-term vacation rental? Is it only to ones that are zoned for short-term vacation rental, or is it also available to people that have ohanas that are also interested in doing this program?
Some of the ohanos that are presented to us, we have to assess them. There is a standard of sizing, the type of equipment that needs to be in there, so far as having the stove top, a refrigerator, those type of appliances that have to be, all of them don't. And so as soon as that is presented to us, then we go out to make sure we can get that approved to be accepted. I can't say blanket yes, because some of them have not fit into our program, because they do have to have your unit has to pass our HUD checklist standards that are there.
Okay, because the program looks like it's marketed to short-term vacation rental owners. So we're just kind of wondering if it's also for like Kihei villages, like places that are long-term.
Yes. Long-term rentals.
Like
For your
180 days or greater. Those sorts of owners can
Yes.
also participate in this program.
Yes, for the long-term ones, yes.
Hi. First off, thank you for all your work. It's fantastic. So I was here 2 weeks ago
Yes.
with 3 other property owners, friends of mine. So that's 4 of us with properties. And for the last 2 weeks, we haven't really gotten anywhere as far as, and we're trying to get people into our units. And it just seems there's a lot of misinformation. Right hand isn't talking to the left hand, and there's just a lot of, so in 2 weeks, we haven't gotten anywhere. And what we're trying to do is get people into our units, but we're trying
Yes.
to get friends in, right? Because I have all my friends were down in Lahaina, they lost their homes, and I'm trying to get a friend in. So I was told I can pick my tenant. Then I was told I couldn't pick my tenant. Then I was told to have my tenant or potential tenant go to FEMA directly. And he was just told this morning that he can't pick his unit. So I'm being told I can't pick my tenant. He's being told he can't pick his unit.
Okay.
I mean, so I just feel, why can't we pick our own tenants? You know, I want to help my friends.
Right. So there's 2 parts to that. So the applicant, the reason why we have the applicant contact FEMA is because we need to make sure they're eligible for direct lease. Because there's other programs that they may be eligible for, and they may not be applicable to our direct lease program. And so that is why that applicant has to call and work with the IA Individual Assistance Group, and they will be directed from there to help them with the resources. If they fit into our program, then we do have a process in place where we begin that process with getting them housed into our units when they give us your information, working with our property managers.
Okay, so in my case, I don't know about the other 3 owners. He was registered with the direct lease. He had the number, so he was registered. So when I went to choose him, they said no. He was just sent to AI and he wanted to choose
Mhm.
my unit, and AI told him no. So this is what I mean. It's just, so I've been trying to do this for 2 weeks and we're getting nowhere, and the place is empty. And it's killing me because he needs a place. He's in a hotel. My place is empty and I'm not getting anywhere.
Okay. And so let me understand, you have already talked with our property managers to bring your unit in.
Yes.
And we're going through that process of getting your unit inspected.
No,
Is
we
that
didn't even
correct?
get that far because 2 management companies told me that I can't pick my tenant. So unless I could
So-
pick my tenant, I'll move in there and I'll just stay here. I was actually offering to leave the island
Mhm.
so that I can give my unit to somebody. You know what I mean? So 2 units said you can't, 2 property managers told me I can't choose the tenant.
Okay, so the reason
So
why,
then we sent him to AI, and then AI said he can't choose.
okay,
So,
so we are working through that process. That
Okay.
is something that is different from our direct lease program.
okay,
This is unique to hear of what the ask has been.
okay,
And as we are working through the IA, working with IA and my group, that communication,
Yeah.
and just like what you said, will be better communicated on our process of how that works and how that happens.
okay. Could you explain the difference between AI and direct lease?
So the individual assistance is the program who runs the process that's in place for me in contracting. So they are the ones who have the policy and have the guidelines that is presented to me that I follow through my contract. And then through the leases and the agreements that are between the property manager and you. And so the individual assistance runs and has communications with our survivors. And they are then given the information on how they are eligible and how they qualify for direct housing.
Okay, so will AI,
I just want to simplify it for you.
well,
Our individual assistance is nothing more than a title of a program
okay,
that where FEMA is authorized to deliver assistance to individuals impacted by
Okay.
disasters. Underneath that, there's different programs. I talked about providing rent or direct housing. So those
okay,
are 2 programs underneath there. So what she's talking about today is a program underneath that organization. I think what she's saying is typically we don't do what you're asking to do, but because of the limited number, because what we don't want to do is not be equitable to everyone, right?
right.
And we
right.
run some of those risks when we start choosing A over B or, C over D, right?
Right, right.
We're allowing this to happen as long as the displaced person is kind of initiating that process, right?
Okay,
And so because it's not normal, there's probably a little confusion in the bureaucracy of our organization. But what she's saying is we're clearing that up.
okay,
This is something new that came up a week ago
okay.
as an idea, or 2 weeks ago as an idea in the last meeting, and we said, let's do it. So we will work that out and clarify that.
So should I have my own lease and give it to the tenant and have
No.
the tenant come to you with the lease? You know what I mean?
No, what you need to do is what we've established already. If
Okay.
you can actually give us your information
Okay.
later, and then I can help you clear up where you're at right now in the process.
And is the payments same as, do they cover the HOA and all that?
Yes,
It's all
everything
the same.
that you have signed with that property
Okay.
manager is the same. Nothing changes.
Okay,
But we'll work your individual issue out right after.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I took up.
Why don't you want to go in line? If you want to get in line and use the mic, you're welcome to. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a concern in preface about what Governor Green was saying, that by mid-January, there's a deadline. And then after that, kind of a threat that the hammer will come down. Now, I'm a vacation rental owner, and I have people that have booked my unit for over a year. They've already paid, many of them in full. They've already paid their balance. So where does that leave me as an owner?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a question between you and Governor Green. It is. I mean, we don't regulate the vacation home rental market here. We don't regulate, the rental market. What we do is provide people displaced. I would say this, though, that we know that there's 13,000 units here, over 60% vacant right now. We know that we have the data on which ones are vacant. I think it's really unfortunate that we have 3,000 people that have been displaced, that have lost everything. I think collectively, we as a community need to come together and figure out how do we help them with the resources here. What FEMA is willing to do is step in to assist those individuals, but also work to get to a win-win with the property owners where those units may be vacant and available to make sure that it's at a rate that's acceptable. So that's where we're at. But I can't really address his policy. That's, you know, what he's saying is his policy. Obviously the one the mayor just did with the tax exemptions, I think they'll probably speak about that today. That's another, option that the mayor went through. But we're glad to work with those that have available units. If your unit's not available, then we're probably not, there's probably not much we can do, right?
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you all for being here. I know that your hearts are all in the right place, trying to help everyone out and everything. But I have some questions. I'm a long-term property manager on island, unaffiliated with FEMA, just a local. And we had some questions regarding which rules and codes you guys are using and following for your program. Because as far as we could tell, the property managers listed as the property managers in the paperwork aren't licensed in the state of Hawaii. And as far as we can tell, maybe there's an exception for it under the homeless programs of HRS 346. But that same section also exempts them from kind of important parts of real estate here, including the residential landlord tenant code. So we were hoping to get some answers on what codes and rules you guys would be following, because, owners want to know how their property will be managed more so than just what the basic policy is, what rules and laws are guiding it.
Also, thank you for attending here and thank you for your questions. So what we're going to be able to do is, although I don't have all your answers regarding the policies here, that would have to be something that is vetted through our legal. But what I can provide you with is the rules and regulations of the standard that our direct lease follows at this time. But if you can leave me your information with and I will get back with you to answer your questions in those areas, because I don't have an answer for everything right now, but only can provide you, again, the standards that we have in place for the HUD standards and the policy that we have in place with our direct lease program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm a property manager as well, but they're all short-term vacation rentals. And I just spoke with all the property managers that you all selected for us, and they were all wonderful. They had great information, different information, and some of them gave different things. One good thing, I think, that it should serve us all is that they said that in the lease that our owners sign, they could designate their local property manager as the manager on site. And if that is true, that would be wonderful. And I also want to find out if in fact that is true, can the checks go to our trust so we can run it through our system and pay their bills like we normally do? Because that would be very helpful to the owners as well. And then also, is there a written amount of money written down that everybody knows? If we go to FEMA with our owners, 1-bedroom owners are going to get 5,000, 2-bedroom, 7, 3-bedroom, I think 9,000. Because I was told by a couple of property managers that you guys selected for us that the rates were different. And I want to know how they're paid. How are these people paid to manage our properties? That's very important to some of our owners. And lastly, is there a cap on damages? That's it for now.
Okay. So speaking with your communication for you managing it locally, that is true. Excuse me, that is true. The amounts for each unit is different. Everyone's home is different. So there's no flat rate for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, because it has to be assessed at the needs of your property. Some people may have it furnished, some of them don't. Some of them have different utilities. There's different things that is associated with each unit uniquely. So we can't have a flat rate. They have the ability, and that is in their profession, to be able to provide you with the fair rate for your unit. So that's why there's no consistent, but they are going to be really close in what a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom offer. I think there was a third part to your question, but I'm sorry, I forgot what it was. Or did I answer your questions? The cap of damages, yes. So there's no cap. So we have to restore your unit back to the way we receive it. So the damages that happen in your unit will be repaired back to and restored back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have two basic questions. First of all, how are fines assessed and dealt with? Because any AOAO finds the owner, smoking being the big thing, at $250 a pop. The owner's the one that gets fined. How do we deal with that? Because that can really hurt.
That's a good question. Hasn't come up yet, but so when there is a violation that happens, and if there's any cost associated with it, that is something that the property managers will communicate to us. And that is something that we would have to pay.
And then I'm a little confused on how we work out. I understand nobody wants to pin a specific number to any property, but is it a triple net lease or a gross lease? A triple net lease being you pay me a base rent and then you pay all the other things like AOA, utilities. A gross lease is basically you pay me a number and then I pay everything else. Because one of the concerns here is I have a short-term rental. I don't have 100% occupancy. I have 80% occupancy. So when I figure out what my electric use is, it's based on my 80% and my 100% occupancy. And so that's the concern. If it's what in commercial settings calls a triple net lease is I get my rent and then you pay the electricity, you pay the AOA. Also, the concern is AOA fees usually go up. So if I'm factoring it into that gross lease, the number I get, what I get over time, it actually will be less.
Okay, so the amount that you are receiving once you sign that lease, it should cover what you're needing for that year. So that payment is going to you, right, for that unit. So that information of that cost, each one separately is determined in the parts of what is rent, which is separated from your taxes and all that, and the furniture, the utilities, some of them have cables, all that. But that one payment comes to you for you to disperse that out into those fields that you're referring to.
Okay, so it's a gross lease, and then I pay my bills
Yes.
from that.
Yes.
Okay, just a thought, you could really get hurt on utilities, especially with air conditioning. You know, if a person doesn't pay for utilities, open the window and turn on the air conditioning. I mean, I have this issue with short-term rentals also. So that's just a concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name Guyana. I have lost here big business too in a shopping center on the Wharf Cinema Center. I'm a short-term lease owner, house owner. And the house is almost on a acre land and there's a big trees. I would feel much more comfortable if somehow government of Hawaii get agreement that I would comfortable if my current realtor would manage my property because it's a big house. It's a nice house and definitely I would consider just in that case if my realtor would manage because there is a lots of issues happening during period and your realtors are they living on the island?
I've already addressed that. Your answer to that question, yes, they are here. And if you're wanting, if you have to assess it for yourself, if you feel like your property is a good fit for direct lease. That's something you have to determine by the information that I'm presenting here today. So I can't answer that for you.
I have spoken with many friends. I know that here homeowners will feel much more, not that much more comfortable, 100% comfortable if our current property managers would handle with the FEMA. If you give them the same job, why FEMA real?
Yeah, so
we need to have a FEMA real.
I think we understand the issue of property management, but just let's go back a couple months where we had an industry day where we invited property managers here, where we put out a request for proposal that anyone on the island could apply to be a property manager for us. And we didn't receive, yes, we did it. It's official. Once the
Maybe we
government
do it
goes out,
again.
it's for the record. We did do that. Okay, so let me just talk. You gotta let me talk because I'm gonna tell you what we did. And we didn't receive proposals. Then what we did is we received proposals from other companies we usually work with. And they are here on island now working. I think what Dimitri said earlier is that if someone wants to be a property manager and work directly with us, sign up to the SAM site, become a property manager and build a relationship with us. That's why we brought them here today to help you. So for those that are upset property managers, because we are working directly with the owners now, and I just sent 13,000 letters to them because the property managers weren't working with us. I mean, I've met with property managers for the last month and a half. I had a meeting with 9 big ones November 9th that didn't bring any resources to the table. I offered to go ahead and put them into SAMs. So if there's property managers here right now that want to work directly for us, sign up to the SAM site and become a property manager and build a relationship with us. We're willing to do it. We're willing to help you do it. But what we can't do is go ahead and work directly with you without going through that site and how becoming a contractor. So in the interim, the way you could do it is you could work through our property managers. Okay. I think we've made it pretty clear here today on the property management side. Really what we want to do is lease units. So if there's owners out there that want to lease units, we're glad to do it through your property manager, through ours, or just sign up to SAMS and become a recognized property manager with our system, or direct lease to us and we'll lease directly to you.
One another question. There is a like 18 or 24 months rental period. After that rental period, if I do not want to continue and the people who leave, they will not have a place to go, how I take them out? Because there is in California, if they have a half a year mailing address, you cannot kick them out with any way. How I do that?
So we have a process that we do have to go through. There is a caseworker that meets with them every month just to make sure they're on target, trying to find out and assist them making their solution for housing beyond our program. But when our program does end, they are given the sufficient time notice to find other housing. And so at that time, if they choose not to and continue to stay, unfortunately, we do have to do the eviction process. But once the program ends, they are most of the time, there may be a 1%, one out of the housing mission that did not leave on time, but did leave after our program ended, and we did not have to go through the eviction process. Most of all of our housing, our survivors that have used this program have left in the timely fashion that they were supposed to go through. And we do give them enough time to make sure they find proper housing after within this period of time. Thank you.
So I'm a property owner in Wailea. I've been there a long time with a little 1-bedroom, 2-bath. I've been fortunate enough to have the same management company for 40 plus years. And having their eyes and ears in that unit almost on a daily basis, because it's frequently rented, has given me a lot of comfort. And it's a small space. So first question, in terms of the number of tenants that might be put into this space, is there any control over that? It would be lovely for a husband and wife or a couple. Once you go beyond that, too many people in a little space. And I'm wondering what your protocols are for how you match units with tenants.
Yes, we do match according to the guidelines that are out there. So there is a guideline of how many people can be in a 1-bedroom, 2 people in a 2-bedroom, and so on and so forth. It even goes by gender. So there's the guidelines that we have to abide by with composition of their families. We do know and matching them to the unit. So you will not have a 2-bedroom home that would have 6 people occupying it in our program, because that falls outside the guidelines that we go by. So the composition is done by those HUD standards that we have to apply by the households and your size of your home.
And what kind of monitoring in terms of, let's say you have the 2 people living there and then the relatives come and they stay, violates the HOA rules. It puts wear and tear on the unit. What kind of vigilance could we expect in terms of your eyes and ears?
We do have violations on that as well. They know that they cannot stay long periods of time. There is in part of the agreement that they do sign with FEMA. There is, they can't stay for, and I don't know the exact time. I don't know if it's 5 days, but it's according, but let me just back up to something you said. You said that you have guidelines through your HOA. Those guidelines are provided to them, and that is what they have to follow. If they violate it, then that is a penalty against them.
So what's the tolerance? You talked about, it depends how many violations or words to that effect. When I heard that it could be numerous, I wondered why beyond one, but typically what happens with FEMA in terms of their tolerance for violations in units?
So there's different levels of violations, and that's why I can't speak to in general. So when we're saying there's a certain violation that breaks the law, that's not tolerated. That's something we can't do. If it's something where they're not maintaining the unit so far as maybe the grass has to be cut or whatever, and that's a violation, we have to correct it. If they don't correct it, then that's when they have to be, the penalty is assessed. So it depends on the level of the penalty of the violation that happens.
Okay, so what's the frequency of your property manager going to knock on the door and say, and just take a look at what's going on inside? Does that happen, or does it have to wait for an incident that gets reported
No,
and then someone comes along? What's your role of the property manager to take a look at what's going on in that unit?
so the caseworker that comes by once a month is the one who comes monthly to that unit, outside of what the property manager has agreed with you as to the frequency of them maintaining that property, if the work orders are there. But our caseworker is the one who comes into that unit once a month to sit down with them and assess all that.
Okay. So I reached out to all three of your property managers. Two didn't phone back. One did. The experience I had was being welcomed and being sent a lease, and when are you going to sign up? And I learned years ago that when someone wants an answer now, the answer is always no. Am I involved in a sort of a property manager by property manager negotiation as to what the terms might be, or what should I do in terms of approaching these managers if I want to put my unit in this program?
You're asking, so you don't have.
I felt like I was in a negotiation.
I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is you can contact that one property manager and go with that one. It's up to you. You don't have to call each one individually. That's why it sounds like it is, so to speak.
You're not
a
getting my point.
negotiation.
My point is, will they be the same or will they be different?
So there will be a little difference because of how they assess your unit. I can't speak for how they negotiate because I can't control that negotiation, but they can't go over an amount that your unit or under what your unit would be valued at.
Right.
And then you have to feel comfortable with working with that property manager to make sure that your relationship and you feel comfortable working with them for the duration of this.
Well, basically what I was left with was, once it was done, it was really going to be up to my manager here to help me. That's how I felt the conversation ended. So that's a relationship that I'd want to curry between the offsite property manager from who knows where and the manager I've worked with for plus or minus 40 years. That's really what I'm left with. Is that fair?
You're saying that
I'm left with my eyes and ears really being my local manager who knows every square inch of that unit.
What's your question?
I'm saying that's what I'm left with, is it not? Because it sounded to me like the offsite managers weren't really involved once the leasing was done. Am I wrong in that?
That you're wrong.
So they're part of that caseworking process of once a month, or what are they involved with?
They're involved with the maintaining of your property.
How will they know? I mean, I'm not trying to dominate the mic, but how will they know what's going on in there?
Through the caseworker. If there's something in there, they have assessed something, then they contact. The communication works through that way. Sometimes the applicant may have something of a work order or something that is needing to be done that they work through the property manager back to FEMA to get it repaired in that sense.
But and I take it that virtually everything that happens there is my responsibility in terms of the work order, unless it's blatant mischievous damage. Is that fair to say, like, if the fridge doesn't work anymore, and we all know fridges in the tropics, close them as often as you can, but when people don't have any responsibility, they might mistreat it. But if I have to replace a fridge, that's my problem. Is that fair?
That
Is
that is
what-
something that the property manager and you work on that repair. The maintenance that they will complete is by the assessment of what's going on in the unit.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna have to take about 2 more questions and then I'm gonna go back to the schedule and then we're gonna come back again because I need to keep it on track and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna get everybody's questions answered, okay?
I think you've actually already answered my question. I have a property that I was going to start running as of September 1. I just bought a new property. We placed a Hawaiian cultural practitioner and his family in that home like the end of September. They did apply for FEMA. They got rejected. They just went back and it reapplied, but it didn't get followed through with. So I think we're probably going to be good. I just want to know exactly how I get signed up into the program at this point.
You want to sign up your unit with one of the
Yeah.
property managers.
Right.
So you can, at the break time, you can go and speak with one of them and they can walk you through that process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything you're doing.
Mine is super fast. So I've got a question about people that own licensed permitted bed and breakfast. So bed and breakfast means that each individual room just has like a college dorm size fridge and a microwave and a sink. So it's not a full kitchen. Can those people also participate in this program? Is that something FEMA's interested in?
That does not, it cannot qualify for the type of units that we're needing to house the families in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will get another opportunity to answer your questions. I promise you that. But we're going to move on into the next part, which is we're going to have a video that we're going to show, and then I'm going to answer your questions, and then we're going to have the county come up and talk about our tax incentives.
Direct lease for some can be ideal in transitioning to their permanent housing plan because it takes away the stress and the barrier of them having to come up with the rent, having to furnish the apartment or the home. FEMA takes care of all those things for them.
It feels really good. It's bringing me a sense of calm and relaxation that I haven't had in a few months, and creating some temporary stability.
I never owned my own lawn before.
As you walked around downstairs, I told you just make note if anything.
I asked for a 2-bedroom. They said for a family of 5, you have to have a 3-bedroom. Like, okay. So yes, this is more house than what we expected.
They can just come in and settle in and, actually, begin the process of healing and working toward their permanent housing plan.
No, before even coming, I was like, already thinking we need to buy this, we need to buy furniture, beds, cookware, if we were to move here. So that kind of alleviates the stress off of me.
Applicants are reluctant to accept the housing because they're under the misconception that they're going to have to buy all furnishings for a new place, and they don't have the means to do that. So the absolute highlight and a bonus is that FEMA makes sure that everything that they need to get on that path to recovery is provided for them.
FEMA's helped my family find a better place. I highly suggest other people do the same. Trust them. If you guys want to live here or live anywhere else on the island, I would suggest asking for some assistance.
Thank you.
All right, our next speaker that's going to come up, she's going to talk to you about the tax incentives. Her name is Marcy Martin. Yeah, you can, yeah,
This
No.
or no, right here's good?
right here.
Oh, right here. Okay. Okay, wait. Hello. Thank you so much for coming today and for your interest. My name is Marcy Martin, and I am the assessor for the County of Maui Real Property Tax Program. And to incentivize property owners to rent to the displaced, 2 real property tax exemption programs have been created. I want to say, first of all, that we are here as part of the FEMA program. However, our real property tax exemption programs are being offered to everybody. So if you are renting yourself to a family member, if you are renting through the state program, if you rent through FEMA, whichever program you're in, you will qualify. The criteria is you need to be housing someone who was displaced by the wildfires. So there's several programs. So first I'm going to start with the program that we already have in place, and that is our long-term rental exemption program. If you rent to anybody, they don't have to be displaced for 1 year, and you apply by December 31st, you get an exemption off of your value, and you get the preferential long-term rental tax rate. And it's very generous. Just you pay just a little bit more than an owner occupied. So that's always available. The next program we have is a hybrid program. You can rent to a displaced for 6 months, and that way you would be able to use your unit how you like for the other 6 months. And that program, your lease would need to be in place for February 1, meaning it needs to include that date, and you need to apply by January 31st, 2024. So we're giving you an extra month to apply. Typically, our deadlines are December 31st each year, but for this one, the deadline is being pushed to January 31st. You will need to provide the lease with your application. You will need to apply. And we have a table over here with some information. This is Carrie. This is our property technical officer. And we have flyers, but our website is www.mauipropertytax.com. So then we're going to move on to our biggest tax relief program, and that is a 1-year lease to displaced. If you lease for 1 year and your lease includes February 1st, 2024, and you apply with our office by January 31st, you will receive 18 months of tax relief. Your February 20th, 24 bill will be waived, and you will be exempt for the entire fiscal year 24-25. So that's where the 18 months comes. It's kind of retro 6 months. Did I say the deadline was January 31st? Okay. If you have a lease that covers March 16th for 1 year, and you apply by March 15th, you will be eligible for 12 months of tax relief. So your taxes go to 0. And you must apply by March 15th. And so the FEMA direct leases apply. When you're applying on the FEMA program, your tenant is going to be FEMA or Lima Charlie or GEM, whatever the program is. And then we're going to trust that your property is being leased to the displaced. And just want to make it clear that it's not just short-term rentals either. It can be half of your house. It can be a cottage. It can be a dwelling. It can be a short-term rental. Just has to be a residential property, not a commercial property like a hotel. So get everything? Yes, I would love to take some questions.
Okay, we have an owner who is in the process of doing a lease to a displaced person, but he's doing it one-on-one. He's not going through FEMA. Is he still eligible for the tax relief?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
So in that case, we're going to ask for the tenant's name and the former address, and that is on the form.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do ask for a copy of the lease. And I'm telling you, the minute you get the lease to apply, and the reason why I say that is I say that for all of our programs, because we all get so busy this time of year with the holidays. Don't put it off. Don't go, oh, okay, I'll wait till January 31st. No, get it into our office. Yeah, and you can email it. That's a really great way to get things to our office because you get that receipt, right? You get that.
You're very good about that. Question two from all of the people in our program, because some people just can't afford to do this. They cannot, they're not mean, they're not greedy, they're none of those things. They can't afford it. If they do, they're going to be foreclosed on. They want to know who and why and where, who's going to pay for the tax losses. And what our mayor said and our governor is going to be those people who can't afford to do this. And I pray to God our county does not do that. So do you have any information where that tax loss is going to come from?
Okay, well, no matter what, we are going to suffer a tax loss because we've lost an entire community. Yeah. So we're in April 19th, our office provides the taxable values to the county council by classification. And that begins their budget deliberation. So they're going to take, I think property taxes are about 50% of our budget. It's the biggest single revenue source. So they're going to take the budget and they're going to figure out how much money they need. And then they take that, they divide it by the values and they come up with the tax rates. As a division within the Department of Finance, all departments have been asked to cut their budget 5%. So operating expenses that have, because we've already turned in our budget because the mayor's going to make his budget and turn it in March. So they're already working on that. And cuts have already been made to this fiscal year as well. So the county is doing their part to cut expenses. And all of these have to work together to be revenue neutral, right? To collect the same amount of money is going to be a challenge already given our losses. So I would suggest, though, as property owners, to be part of the process. So you can sign up for legislative alerts. You can be part of the budget process. The mayor's already had his budget meetings. Then the county has their budget meetings. You can testify online, but I would say it's really important to monitor, be part of the program. And if people can't afford to be in the program, they aren't going to be. We don't need the entire inventory of housing to participate. I think they said we need about, 3,000, and we have a lot more homes than that. So, this program is really where we're looking for the people who can afford to be in the program, and hopefully people will sign up and it won't be a problem.
Just want to thank everybody for coming and providing this information. I have a question. So we have a short-term rental unit that we rent out through our management company. And we're going to have somebody move in mid-January, and it's going to stay through the end of May, I believe, through the Red Cross. Now, from what I understand, they only get Red Cross funding so much time in advance. But if everything works out, we'd like her to stay. So one question of mine is, do we get, you said tax relief or you wouldn't be paying a tax bill? Does that qualify? Maybe you could provide a little more insight on that.
Okay, that's a good question. So I know I didn't listen to all of your dates, but there's a 6-month program if you have that 6-month lease.
Yeah.
And it includes February 1.
Okay.
Apply.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I should probably talk to our property manager on that, right? I'm guessing.
Yes,
And
because
then-
they might have the lease, and then you can call our office too, just to our office to reach our compliance section. That's who processes the long-term leases. It's 808.
Okay.
270-7295. I think the Red Cross leases aren't 1 year though, if I'm not mistaken. Right now, the program is transitioning to this longer term housing solution.
Okay, yeah, from what I understand, just in talking to our property manager, is that they don't put the funding out real far in advance, I guess, but I will speak to her on that. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'll try to be quick. As far as the tax exemptions go, if a part of a property is being rented to someone who was displaced by the fires, is it correct that the amount of space that they're occupying in the household, that is what is eligible for the property tax exemption, not necessarily the whole property, because it'd be split?
Yes, very good question. If you're renting a portion of a property for 1 year and you have a 1-year lease, you apply. We're going to ask you for the portion that is being rented, and then we're going to prorate the exemption. So let's give some examples. I have a house and a cottage, and I have my home exemption on the house, and I'm renting my cottage. You're still going to get your home exemption and all of those benefits on that portion, but the portion that you're renting to a displaced will go to 0.
Okay. And also just a really quick follow-up, because someone had mentioned housing and tax shortfalls and stuff. It seems that not a lot of people are aware of this, but it passed back in July. Remember that starting in 2024, there's a county surcharge for GET. So GET, instead of 4%, it's going up to 4.5%. It's going up 0.5%. So just as a heads up for anyone who doesn't know.
Mine is just a comment, not a question. Just from talking with fellow property management companies, the short-term rentals have been targeted, and this nuclear option from the governor, and I realize it has nothing to do with you guys. And I'm glad to see that this conversation includes long-term rentals, because I know there's so many long-term rentals that have been sitting vacant. So perhaps it's not so much an economic issue for their owner that they sit vacant. Short-term rentals are reliant on income, and, vacation rentals are vilified, but we are an economic engine for the county, not just income for the owners, but income for business owners as well, property management companies, housekeepers, maintenance, all of that. So I just kind of want that on the record. We're not the enemy. We want housing for everyone. We really do. And I missed that meeting for the property management industry. So I'd just like to encourage, I haven't seen or talked to anyone representing the Realtors Association of Maui or the Vacation Rental Managers Association. I'm members of both. So when those meetings happen, if you could reach out to those folks so they could communicate to us members, that would help us participate in these meetings in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just spoke to the Realtor Association of Maui, filled their government liaison position with Gary, who used to work for Council Services. So I'd worked with him for many years, and I spoke with him yesterday on the phone explaining the bills to him. So they are a good resource, your realtor. And please have your management companies call us and your owners call us. I think, you know, I've worked in government since 1995, and everyone here wearing FEMA shirts are government employees. And don't be afraid to participate. Don't be afraid to call. Don't be afraid to comment on legislation. You can be part of the government program. And our office takes calls. We are open 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, closed on holidays. We have open counters. Sometimes you have to wait, but usually not too long. But you can come in person and speak to someone to our office.
Okay, my client here has a huge house. The upstairs is a licensed, not B&B, but vacation home. The bottom is long-term, okay? We applied for the long-term exemption, okay? What happens to the upstairs when if we were to participate in this program? Because it's separate.
Okay, so you have an STRH permit, is that right? Yeah, on the downstairs. Okay, see, I'm gonna say, let's go give your tax map key or property address to Carrie, because this is gonna be unique. We don't have a lot of STRH permits, but that's great that a portion of your home is going to house a long-term. And I think, yeah. But is it to someone who's displaced though? It's no. Okay, I think that they're not eligible. It's not eligible, right? When you have that STRH permit, you are not eligible for the long-term, the already existing long-term rental program. Well, that's just the way that the code is written. I think, well, so that is what I'm talking about as being a partner with your government. If you have a situation, you can write your council member and tell them about your situation and tell them what, you know, you're doing. And because they have addressed that situation for owners who live in the property and rent a portion short term, because we have that commercialized residential. So
You're actually getting $300,000 exemption with they live there rather than $200,000.
or if you do a short-term rental and you live there, you get the commercialized residential. So it's no exemption, but it's a lower rate. It's a different classification.
No, I've seen them. They're getting $300,000.
And they're doing short-term rentals?
Actually, no.
No, yeah. Yes, okay, yeah. But yes, you can get your $300,000 home exemption and another $100,000 exemption for doing long-term rental, not renting to a displaced. You know, as they said when this meeting opened, the housing shortage is it's been in the making for a long time. And so the county has been trying to create incentives for people opening up their properties to long-term housing. Anything else? No? Well, I appreciate your interest and thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much for your information and supporting this event. Right now, we're going to have Felicia come up and introduce the property managers. And then I know you have a question. I'll get to your answer that real quick.
Wow, I came up and it's like the room halfway cleared. I just want to thank you again for coming to our direct lease. And I want to introduce you to our property managers. Now, our property manager, I'm going to just kind of go over a little bit about our direct lease program. We have awarded a BPA to 3 property management companies. Those property managers are here on the island, just working specifically with the Maui wildfires. The program managers for our direct lease program have a lot of responsibility for FEMA. They do their property inspections, they're contracting applications, they're securing our units. They're also moving in applicants. They do the lease agreements and the conditions. And they work with our FEMA team. It's not just contracting that works with the property management. We have an entire staff, acquisitions that help us out between doing the leasing in, the inspections, making sure the applicants fit the criteria for each one of the housing units. There's a lot involved. We actually converse with our property management team probably maybe 10 times an hour. There are many emails that go back and forth to make sure. It takes us a little bit of process to get an applicant license in. And in that process, our property managers have a very big responsibility. And not only are they managing the property, but they are also in line with speaking to every one of our departments that have to help with this license in. It is a big collaboration between ourselves and our property managers. I want to introduce you to our 3 property managers for the direct lease program. And after I introduce them, I'm going to let each one of their team members come up and just kind of say who they are and a little bit about themselves. That way, you know who they are, and then you can go to their tables and talk to them afterward. So one of our BPA holders, our property managers, is going to be the first table is going to be aesthetic home investments. Our second table is going to be Parliaments. And then our third is going to be Lima Charlie. And I'm going to ask going from left to right, if they could each come up and talk a little bit about themselves and their company, probably about a minute each.
Hi, I'm not great at public speaking, so thank you for your patience. Okay, awesome. So my name is Aisha. I am the CEO and owner of Aesthetic Home Investments. And I originally started the company to have more of a flexibility to be home with my children, and I've always been kind of known as the giver in my family, so I wanted to do something to help others out. And we've been fortunate enough to work with FEMA and a few of the direct lease programs to be able to house people who were displaced during a natural disaster. So, a few things that, I want to make sure you guys are well aware of is that we encourage property managers to work with us. It helps for you all to be able to inform your owners of exactly, how we're doing business together. And I think it's a great asset to have you guys on our team. Any questions you guys have, I'm here to be able to help and assist any way that, I can. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Aloha. I'm Yoni Fox. I am with Parliament. We're also go by Fedcology. We've been in the business for about 15 years. My partner, David, who's back in the mainland. I'm here, been here for a couple months already, really feel connected to Maui. And yeah, just really here to do all we can to get people housed. And I know was listening to a lot of the questions from everyone. We are happy to work with property managers. We're already doing that. We're keeping people who have their own property managers. If they want to keep them on board, we're more than happy to do that. That's a win, I think, for, the local people here as well as us. And they know their properties, they know their owners. So we feel happy to do that. And yeah, we have a local presence. We're increasing our presence. We're building out our team. I'm going to be here. And yeah, just happy to help with any questions you have. And, there's always a lot of legalese and information. And I myself am an attorney. That was what I did originally and was a broker. So I know a lot of the different angles and different, different nuances of this program, and happy to get everyone up to speed. And I know there's just a lot out there, and hopefully we can get everyone the information they need and make them feel comfortable and ultimately be happy with the decision they made. And they're helping a family and also helping themselves. So thank you, everyone.
And our last company is Lehman Charlie.
Appreciate it. And try to get out of the light here. Hey, thanks, Maui. Thanks for having us here. It's a complete honor. It's a blessing to be able to be part of this mission with FEMA. We've been doing this for just over 3 years. We're probably the longest direct lease company here. We have over 500 units nationwide in management. This is all we do as a company. And we have the honor to work with these other 3 companies, and they're all wonderful. They all are a little bit different. Everybody runs their company different. I am a retired military. I did 8 years. And so we see the mission to the end. And that's what kind of sets me apart. My partner here is a broker in California. He owns a property management company, is well diverse in management and owning and operating those. We're both investors. So we speak STR, we speak profit and loss, T12. We understand what you're thinking, and we want to be there for you and help you through it. Although he is a property manager, he is not a property manager here, and we would love to partner with all the property managers. So if you have property managers in place, we will coordinate with them and work with them, and we strongly recommend that as well. So with that being said, we're all here to help. If you can help the program out, that is the best process. It doesn't matter which one you go with, and whatever you feel comfortable as a person, we would just love to help you and help Maui. And that's ultimately what the goal is. So thank you so much for your time. I look forward to speaking to you and really appreciate the relationships that we're going to build over the next couple of months. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take the time out. I have one more question I need to answer here in the room. And then we have questions that are online, and we're getting ready to have someone read some of those questions from out of the chat, and then we're going to answer it here in the room. I'm going to go ahead and bring the mic to you.
I'm a short-term rental owner, and basically just wanted to know, and I think that the last 3 people that spoke answered my question. I'd like a real person to talk to, because I do my own property management, and I'd like to know the details, like who goes and fixes the breaker when they get a call at 1 a.m, or who, smoke alarms chirping. And I'm hearing a lot of fuzzy stuff like, okay, people are located on the mainland, they're here, they want to broker with other property managers. I just want to know the real, who's responsible. Ultimately, as a property owner, what's my involvement? If I sign a lease with FEMA, am I just like, okay, I don't have to worry about anything for 1.5 years or 2 years, or am I going to be on the phone dealing with bad tenants or issues? So I guess I just have a lot of, nuts and bolts, what really goes on. And another question I had earlier was, what involvement do the people that are chosen as tenants have? Are they involved with some rent participation? I mean, sometimes, I think it's important to have tenants that have some skin in the game, just to know how your property is going to be taken care of, if it's a freebie or if it's, and I'm sure that's maybe part of this IA program you're talking about, that, and that's totally out of our control if we release to FEMA. But it's nice to know everyone's participating to the extent they can.
First of all, thank you for your questions. So regarding the tenant and how they pay, so your agreement is with FEMA, and it is, the rent is paid from FEMA solely to you. This is part of the program. And so the only assurance that we can have when we're looking at the survivors is through the background check, and then just to monitor them while they are in your property. Your property managers are the ones who can speak to how they manage you with you. You have one-on-one. I'm glad you're here today because you can take the time out to speak with them, go over that, answer all your questions, and I'll be glad to directly speak one-on-one with you. And at any time you're not getting any responses from after you've reached out, please contact the phone number or the email that was up there directly with me, and I will be glad to direct and answer any questions to help you through the program of getting answered and your concerns with that information. All right, thank you. We're going to go ahead and did you?
I emailed you the letter that everyone got that's a direct lease. So one, the question was, I think earlier, one of the things we did to help those know who are eligible for direct leases, we just recently sent them all a letter. So they should know if they're eligible for this program. They actually have a letter from us, and it pretty clearly spells out in the letter. In fact, I just emailed a draft over here. Maybe we put it on the board here in a little bit. But that's the first thing. Second thing is, to be in this program, you have to be a homeowner that has destroyed or a major damaged home in the fire. So that means you've lost your home in the fire. You have to be, most are going to be uninsured, but those that have insurance and have exhausted their ALE or can't find a place on island that's rentable, they can have us then provide them a unit, and then they pay us the ALE monthly at the 100% fair market rental rate. So who are you renting to? You're renting to other owners of houses that have lost their house. The other group would be renters that rental property is destroyed. So we have about 1,500 people right now in our program that fit that category. So I just wanted to kind of, when you say who are they, the majority are owners or people that are insured that can't find units and maybe have alternate living expense, maybe only have it for 6 months or a year, but need additional help to find a unit or to rent as they go to rebuild and deal with insurance and all those kind of things. So hopefully that provides some context on who they are. Obviously, if they don't follow the policies, just like anywhere else, the risk they run is being evicted from that unit. That would also make them not eligible for any more assistance from us. So I think, if they're displaced and their intent is to rebuild or live here, the hope is that they are, considerate of your property, that they, live there as a guest, they have a need, and that there is not going to be issues coupled with the background check and all those kind of things, knowing that this would limit any further assistance from us to them. So those are the things that may help with answering your question. Yes, sir.
We have friends in Colorado who lost their home in the Marshall Fire. That was 2 years ago.
In what fire?
Marshall Fire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Happily, they had home insurance and they were responsive, but they're still waiting for FEMA assistance. What would you say to that?
They're still waiting for FEMA assistance. Well, they may not be eligible for FEMA assistance if they've been waiting for 2 years. The Marshall fire is, where was it at?
In Colorado.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know specifically in Colorado, but our program is pretty straightforward. If you are a owner that is uninsured, or you're a renter that is displaced from the fire, destroyed or major damage, and you meet the alien status and it's your primary home, not your secondary home, you're eligible for FEMA assistance. It happens pretty quickly. I mean, and then SBA provides obviously a lot more. So far in this event, $40 million to individuals that have been displaced. I would say also it's kind of a misnomer. We're not going to make individuals whole. Our assistance is really geared to ensure that we provide some type of interim assistance to make sure Americans, when displaced due to these big events, don't end up on the street at the end of the night, right? Don't end up sleeping in their car. So the first thing we do is assist with sheltering. And, we're funding all the Red Cross shelters at the hotels. The second thing we do is provide rental assistance. We provided 3,800 people here rental assistance. And the next thing we start doing is providing this direct housing, long-term housing that allows them to rebuild. Our statutory authority is typically 18 months. It is for rental assistance. We can't extend it. For direct housing, we can extend that. But if someone is not eligible 2 years later, I'd probably say that they're not, that they're waiting for FEMA. I'd say they're probably not eligible for FEMA assistance. I can't imagine a 2-year wait for FEMA assistance. It usually it's a pretty quick system, and it's really dependent on the individual providing the necessary information into the system. So as long as they've completed the registration and provide their information, there's decisions. Most of our funding is paid in the first couple of months after a disaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
So there's something wrong there. I don't know what it is because I don't know their situation. But I know Colorado's fire, and I know individual assistance was eligible there, but I just don't know their situation. Maybe it's their secondary home.
It's first.
Primary home. Yeah.
Thank
Okay. Thank you. Maybe they're insured. So here you go. I was looking for her.
Thanks. So right now we're gonna answer the questions that are online. We're gonna have them read out loud and then we'll answer it here. Are you able to hear me? Okay. You can hear me now? Oh.
Thank you. So I've selected about 10 to 12 of the questions online. And if we don't get to your questions online, please continue to submit them. And we will send an email out to everyone who is registered so that you have the responses that you're looking for. So we'll start with the first question. We don't live on Maui. How will repairs be handled?
The repairs are handled through the property managers here. Once you sign up with them, with your lease, your agreement, and that is maintained through the property manager.
Second question, we were told that you could do 12-month leases. Slides say 18 months. Which is it?
So the 18-month reflects the program of when we first begun of the approval of the program. Our leases are through and renewable. Some of the property owners start out with a 12-month lease. Some of them start out with 18 months with the options to be renewed.
Next question, our unit is in a smoke-free building. How will this be enforced?
There is a letter. There's a policy, and I think the letter that they're trying to put up right now so that you guys can see the agreement between the applicant and leasing your unit gives them the guidelines of how they're supposed to follow your guidelines of no smoking in those same policies. Those are to be respected, and they are supposed to be abide by the applicant.
Next question. Can we access our unit for inspections during the lease period?
During that time, if there's an inspection that is needed, we'd have to give them notice. And then at that time, then we'll move forward with that. But you have to give them the proper notice that you would give them to go in to have the inspection done.
Next question. Are you open for furnished long-term rental units to sign up? Repeat the question. Are you open for furnished long-term rental units to sign up?
Yes, definitely. That's exactly what we were looking for, are those long-term and furnished.
Next question. Do we have to provide internet?
It is not a requirement to provide the internet.
Next question. What if we have units available March 1st?
I would say right now we're looking for what's available now. However, we will not take the unit at this time because we don't know what is going to be happening by March or April. Just let us know, just keep the track of what we're doing. Right now, we're looking for it right now. I think we're down to, we're looking for January. And then as we get to the need of the quantity that we're wanting, the time frame pushes out. So I'm not going to say no because we don't know what the need will be at that in that month, but we will not exclude that at this time.
Next question. Is this program only for short-term rental properties? Does it include non-owner occupied single-family homes?
It is not only for short-term rental. We're looking for your unoccupied unit that we can fill with our lease for at least up to 24 months.
For this next question, I will try to interpret what I believe the person was asking. They said, Google says it's 49 minutes away. I read somewhere the limit is 40 minutes. I think they're asking about the drive time of their unit from the damaged dwelling.
So we have 40 miles. The 40 miles is the distance. We don't know exactly what that drive time, it consists of where it is and at the time of what the traffic is. So right now it's just the 40-mile radius is the qualification for your unit.
Next question. Are the contracted property management companies replacing the existing on-site management companies and putting the existing management companies out?
We are working collaboratively together with the current property managers and what we have contracted for. We want you to still maintain your relationship with your owners of your units and working with our property managers collaboratively so that we can all be able to house the survivors.
Okay, and I'll read one more final question. And if there are any other questions, please do put them in the chat and we will continue to record those and get answers out to you after this one. Last question. Is the Red Cross housing program going to be moved over to this or other FEMA program in your property managers? My understanding is the Red Cross program will be done by the end of February.
Currently, right now, the non-Congress sheltering program, we're funding through February, I think it is 8th. Red Cross manages that for the state, and that's the date that program goes through. So it was 6 months from the beginning of the event. Our intent is really, that's a starting place. We want to move individuals to long-term housing so we don't have to keep moving them around. Right now, Red Cross, has different lengths of stay. They have to move families from location to location based on a dynamic, hotel market between that and short-term vacation rentals. This is a sample of a letter that we sent out to all the people eligible for direct housing assistance, just to kind of give you an idea. So it tells them, that we've determined that they're eligible for temporary housing. So it kind of gives you an idea. If you're working with them, they should have this letter. It kind of helps them understand. If you keep on scrolling down. No scroll. All right.
We will have it as part of one of the attachments.
We'll get that technology later. All right. So anyway, it also lists in there, it talks about a little bit about distance and what are the, when we'll work around those issues as far as people that a unit doesn't work. So it's in that whole letter, but it's a good letter to have because then you know that they're eligible. If your question is someone eligible? They should have gotten this letter. This just went out this week. Okay. Any other questions?
I have one more online question that I am going to read because it's been asked several times in the chat. We have many short-term vacation bookings currently. What happens to those displaced visitors if we join the program?
Once your unit has been entered into our program, it has to be exclusively used for our tenant with direct lease. So if you have bookings for it, they would have to be canceled in order for it to fit into our program. We could not disrupt them or have them move out. Once we have signed that lease and put that tenant in, they are there for the duration. Okay, right now we're going to go ahead and take a break. I would like for you guys or invite you guys to go and visit the particular tables. Also the property managers. If we can get some of them over here. I know a lot of them have already come over there, and then I'm here also to answer some questions. And then if you want to find out about how you can get your units up to the inspection, to pass inspection, any questions you may have about that, we have a team here to answer that question as well. Thank you.
From their house. We know over 3,800 units were destroyed in the fire in the Lahaina area. And so that's a lot of people displaced. Some of those people we've gone ahead and assisted by temporarily put them at the hotels with Red Cross providing the support for that. FEMA funds that. The Red Cross manages the hotel program. And it's another form of really temporary sheltering, and that's kind of the start. And we also provide, as I said, rental assistance, funding for individuals to go rent. The issue is the lack of availability of long-term rental properties here on island, and it's exacerbated by the 3,800 units plus that were destroyed in the fire. So as we try to assist those that were homeowners or renters that are displaced, we are looking for secure long-term housing that is not only available for weeks or months at a time, but more like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. That will give sufficient time for one, starting the rebuilding process here. It'll give sufficient time for other housing projects that are coming online to come online that will have affordable housing, so that we can help those people in the interim that are displaced eventually get into long-term solutions. So we're using our rental assistance program, but only a couple hundred people have been able to rent. And so the next thing that FEMA does is start providing direct housing to those that are displaced, that are eligible in our program, that don't have insurance, that don't have other resources. And so that's what this is today. We have two ways of providing direct housing. One is to go lease and rent properties, and one is to build temporary units. We're pursuing both tracks right now. And we know that there's not sufficient rental units in the long-term rental housing market here. So we are reaching out to the vacation rental market, the short-term rental market, to try to negotiate leases through the federal government, where we then could support those that are displaced by the fires. I appreciate everyone being here. It's important that you're here. Hopefully, you're going to be able to help us by providing units. One of the things I did earlier this week is send out letters to the 13,000 short-term vacation rental owners. And so everyone should be getting a letter from us or from me with a fact sheet on it, with information on it on how you can make your property available. And just wanted to kind of set the ground for where we're at today. So we're 4 months from the fire, 4 months of individuals, thousands of people being displaced, some in hotels, maybe some with family and friends, maybe some in other situations. Some have left the island. So we want to help them because their life has been forever changed. And today is an opportunity for you to help us help them in providing housing. You may have seen some of these families around. You may know some families that have been displaced. And so we really need your assistance to help them, and especially if you have rental properties that are available. As I said, I've been doing this for 26 years, and I have, in that time, have never experienced anything as complex as this, just because of the limited number of available properties. You know, in California, when we have the big fires, we go to the next county over and are able to rent property or develop things pretty quickly. There's a lot of complexities here, not only the low availability of long-term rentals, but even as we go to build something, there's limited water availability on the West Coast, limited sewer. There's a number of environmental issues when you try to build, and so there's a lot of complexities, and it takes time. But we're pursuing all tracks. We're doing everything we can to assist those that have been displaced till we can rebuild. Part of the rebuilding is dependent on removing the debris. We've had a number of meetings this week to set temporary sites to temporarily put the debris at, and then the county is working on a long-term disposal site. So appreciate you being here. This program and what we've developed here, we've been able to look at DBED information for the short-term rental market of what was received last year and the year before. So we have a fairly good understanding of the revenue generated by different properties. And we know it's sometimes dependent on where the property is, how new it is, how close it is to the beach. But we have very good information. We know the fill rate. We know the fill rate right now. We have a lot of information on the property. So there's sufficient properties out there that are vacant right now to meet the need. I think the need is probably about 3,000 units. You might have seen the governor's recent press release last week on it. I think that FEMA needs about 1,500 to 2,000 units. And then there's individuals that are outside our program that the state and the county will look to lease for to support those that maybe are not eligible for FEMA's program. And so we're working to assist them in coordinating the availability of units through this effort. We want to be clear about FEMA's direct lease program and what it means to you as a property manager. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. So today is a day to provide that clarity and the difference between Red Cross's program and what they did to temporary shelter people, and what we're looking to do as far as longer term leases into the short-term vacation rental market. So please ask your questions today. We want to make sure we provide as much clarity as possible on the program. I think the county's done a great job on even trying to build some incentives in. You'll hear about that today in the tax exemption process. And the governor's looking at what other policy changes he may need to make starting in January if we don't get enough units, to figure out how to bring more units to the market. So we're working with them very closely, but that is what our goal is to try to lease those number of units. Where are we at right now? We have a little bit over 300 units we've been able to lease. And so we're looking to today's meeting, and we'll probably do one after the New Year's to go ahead and increase those number of units. A lot of good questions out there today. You'll get a chance to ask those questions. We will have our experts come up that run our contracting and manage this process. We'll have individuals come speak from the county, and hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions today. There will also be staff here. They'll be here for you to talk to afterwards. And if you're online, we'll set up a process where you could talk to us and ask questions that you may have. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dimitri Carter, who is our contracting officer, and she's going to speak to you next. Thank you and appreciate you being here.
Good morning. Thank you for coming out. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Felicia Castillo. She's one of the contracting officers that's working on this next.
Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you again for coming out this morning and listening to our direct lease program. I want to introduce you to our contracting staff for the FEMA direct lease program. First off, it's going to be Gina Wheatley. She's right there in the back. She is our field operations section chief for the West. Demetria Carter, who you just met. She is our head contracting officer for this program. Myself, my name is Felicia Castillo. I'm another contracting officer for this program. And then we have one more contracting officer, which is Marvin Jennings. And I want to let you know that each one of us with the FEMA logo on will be walking around and you can ask us any type of questions. I also want to draw your attention to our acquisition staff who are also here to ask for you to ask them questions and go to their tables. Acquisition staff right there at the sam.gov registration assistance. They can help you if you want to get registered for any future opportunities. They'll be at the sam.gov table. We have some more acquisition support staff who will be at the property rental inspection, and you can go there and ask questions about how to get your property ready to be leased. We also will have someone here at the individual assistance, some more acquisition staff. If you have questions about the applicants, or if you're an applicant yourself and you want to make sure you're registered. And then we will touch base with all the other tables, but I just want to make sure that you know that we are here to help you and answer any questions that you may have, as well as online. If you have questions online, we are trying our best to get all the answers for you this morning. If not, you will receive all the answers later. If you have any questions, like I said, the people with the FEMA shirts and the logos can answer any of your questions, and then the support staff are all at the table for you. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our next guest speaker.
Thank you, Felicia. So next, we're going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to let the people online know that there is a link in the chat that I have provided. It will provide you with the handouts that we have here in the room. You can click that link and you will be able to access the documents that we will be passing out here today. So right now, we're going to go ahead and get started with the, we have a video that we want to get started with first of all here. Just a moment. Can you click on the video? Thank you.
I think we've all seen that there's a number of families that need places to live. When we're in a location that has limited rental availability, the next thing that FEMA does is provide some kind of direct housing. Us providing housing resource to the family that has lost everything. And the way we do that is by either directly renting for them or by building something. We really need your assistance to help us in providing properties that will help families so they can have a stable, safe, and clean place to live.
What I love about the FEMA program is that it's backed by the federal government now. So we can do our job as property managers. We can do our job for our fiduciary responsibility for our clients and assure them that they're safe, that their investment is safe, that we have the backing of the federal government to support them through this process.
Our agreement that we are wanting you to commit to is up to 18 months with the opportunity to extend or renew if needed. Once you have signed that lease with FEMA, the managers are going to be making sure that the maintenance happens on the units, making sure that if there are any damages that are done, I mean, they're really going to oversee everything for you guys to take that off of your plates as so far as the upkeep.
That answers so many questions. It answers all the questions. It gives the clients, my clients, solace in knowing that they're going to be supported, that they are not out on a limb by themselves while they're trying to do good.
In disasters, it's my experience, if the whole community comes together and really works together and works toward these solutions together, we're going to work with you to figure out a fair price if you make units available. So it takes a little bit of sacrifice from everyone to be able to make that happen. My feeling is those that have lost everything, they sacrificed enough. It's time for the rest of us to really work toward that.
Our next speaker that's going to come to us is Jazzy. She's with the garden home. She's one of our property managers at a units that we have currently. And we would just like for her to kind of give you some information about how she is supporting the direct lease program. As long as you can stand here so they can see you online. Okay. Yes, right.
Aloha. Aloha. I'm really happy to see so many people here today. As you know, Maui is really at a pivotal point in our history. And we just want to make sure that you get all your questions answered today with how you can support the people of Lahaina and the rebuilding of Lahaina. A little bit about me. I've worked in and lived in Maui for 11 years. And the last third, I've worked in property management. Right after the fires happened, we had so many calls flooding our office with a lot of desperate people who had lost homes, everything, and also lost their jobs. And that was very disheartening for us to hear. And at some point, I remember thinking, how are we going to help all of these people? Maui's housing market is already so strapped, and we really didn't know how we were going to help. But then I got a phone call from a guy named David at Fidcology, part of the direct leasing team. And he started to explain how they were helping property owners to link up with applicants who had lost everything, and how FEMA was going to be paying rents up to 24 months, and that it could be a fairly seamless process if everybody would just take a moment to get the information, the proper information, and not just through the coconut wireless. Long story short, I proposed David's information to my property owner, and she was a little hesitant and cautious to get involved. But then she thought, this is an opportunity to see if we can do some good. So we took we gave several units to Fidcology, and I can assure you that everything went pretty smoothly. We were very happy and grateful from the help of FEMA as well as Fidcology, helping us to help the Lahaina survivors. And on a personal level, I was feeling a lot of gratitude to help house people that had lost everything. And I kind of looked at it as an opportunity to be an earth angel. So I'm hoping that some of you here today, or all of you here today, will have your own story to tell in 5, 10, 20 years from now, how you were a part of supporting our community to get rebuilt and to help the survivors to get back on their feet. Mahalo.
Thank you so much for that testimony. She is one of our property managers who has given us some of her units to house our survivors. So we're going to go ahead and get started with information about our program. The clicker, sorry. So I wanted to tell you what the type of units that we're looking for. We're looking for the vacation rentals, your apartment complexes. We're also looking for the single family homes, also the townhomes. So these are the type of units that we're looking for our program. There you go. So FEMA has awarded contracts to 3 property management companies that are going to facilitate the communication between the property owners and the rental units or the homes and for FEMA. So the 3 property managers here, what they do is they speak to you guys and they contact you, have a discussion about your rental, what it is that it takes to maintain it. They'll walk you through all the steps that's needed about getting ready for the HUD inspection, getting the furniture, how the utilities, the cost, all those things that are associated with it will be managed through our property managers. And then the direct lease program can help house the family in need, and it's you'll receive a fair and stable compensation for doing so. Next. So the property owners will enter into a contract with FEMA and the property management company and not the tenants. So you will not have to worry about directly worrying about the contract and any information with the tenant. Your property manager is the one who is going to do that communication. And they're also going to provide you with the rent, the utilities, the fees that are associated with maintaining your unit, the furniture, the security deposit. And there are going to be some background checks that we are going to be providing before the tenant can come into the unit. So when it comes to those things, we do know that there's concerns about your property, who's going to stay in it. So that's why the background check is done. The financial part won't be a background check for it because FEMA is directly paying you the money. So there's no financial background. It's only the criminal background check that we will be providing. And then for the fees that are associated with your condo, we know that there are some specific fees. Some of them have HOA fees. Some of them have maintenance fees. Those are the things that you'll be discussing with the property managers so that they can know how much the rate will be for maintaining your property. When there's big item things that happen with your unit, maybe the air conditioner may go out or whatever, they will contact you to get your approval on what those needs will be. Also, during the time that the tenant is staying there, there may be some small work orders that need to be done. The tenant will contact the property managers and they will go out to make sure that those get repaired in a timely fashion for them. So it's the things that you don't have to worry about will be communicated and worked through the property managers. So during the term of the lease, we're asking you to provide your unit for 18 months up to 24 months during this time. And that way, with the option to renew. grant the exclusive use of the unit to the selected tenants. We know that some of your properties do not allow pets. So there's rules and regulations that we need to find out. And if you do have a unit that offers pets, that would be great. There are a lot of families out there that do have their pets, they're their loved ones. And so if you have a pet-friendly unit, please let us know that. Those are the ones that the families are really looking for. Also, there are some AFN needs. There might be some minor adjustments that some of our survivors may need. For instance, grab bars in the showers, a ramp, small adjustments like that. If you can let us know that we can make those alterations to your unit that we would pay for, not you. If you would let us know that information, we would make those for some of our survivors that have those needs. Again, there's the rules and the guidelines of your property. You want to make sure that you communicate with our property managers. Some of you all have or live in a community where you have the HOAs and there are certain guidelines that you have to abide by. You can provide those to our property managers so that can be communicated to our tenants that will be there. Sometimes there's the questions that's asked about when the tenant does not abide by those rules, how would we address them? So those are the bad actors in your unit. There's an agreement between FEMA and the survivor that they're supposed to be abiding by. And when they do not abide by those rules, they have a caseworker that comes out and they give them that violation and go over the rules and everything and speak to them about the program. If they have too many violations, that is when we start the process of removing them out of the unit. During the time, sometimes the survivor may find a permanent housing solution while we have that lease with you. During that time, that person may leave. We are still asking to use your unit to fill the fulfillment of our program. Because there will be times, and we've had a couple of families that have moved on and we still need your unit. And so we're asking you to still continue with housing the survivors for as long as they're the need. We will still be using your property during the time that we have the agreement with you. The maintenance of the unit, again, is provided through the property managers, and that's something that we pay for. If an eviction or termination has to happen with that applicant, that is something that we work with the property managers to do that eviction process. Yes, you can ask questions. There will be a time to ask the questions. If you can jot them down, we will get to you, as well as the questions. They will have some online as well, and we're going to address those questions that you have. I'm just doing a very high level of speaking to the unit because the questions and answers is when you're going to have most of the information provided. So the next thing that we're going to go over will be how to get your unit ready for inspection so that we can get people housed, which is going to be by Michelle Williams.
Aloha, everyone. Basically, my team will be going out to inspect the homes. What we look for is to ensure that the units have a smoke alarm, preferably near the kitchen area, in the bedroom area, depending on the size of the unit that you're providing. We are also looking for fire extinguishers. We've noticed here some apartment complex or so forth, they are placed outside the units. We would like them to at least be near the kitchen area. Also, we are inspecting to check your ground fault outlets. We need to make sure that they are placed in the kitchen or in the bathrooms. The ground fault needs to be wired correctly. No infestation. We're looking for free of bugs, mice, droppings, or what have you. We are also checking the units to ensure that the kitchen or the refrigerators, everything is cleaned out. There's nothing left behind. We prefer no personal items are in the units during our inspections. We also want to make sure all the appliances are working correctly. The plumbing, so forth, are working properly, are clean and good working order. To also ensure that the cold and hot water are working within the units. Those are the things that could possibly disqualify. Free of microbial, especially when we're checking the showers and in the bathroom areas and stuff. We want to make sure that it's cleaned. We're also checking for dust, any other additional things that could cause personal harm or just health issues. We don't want that for our survivors. The unit must have good ventilation. When I say that is ensuring that if you have a fan that's working or some type of air conditioning that is working properly for the survivors. Also, we're looking for the windows that they're serviceable. They can be open, closed without any issues. And the doors and windows to the patio, to the patios are also in good working order. So, but if you have any additional questions, I am free to answer those on the side. Thank you so much.
So they could do eminent domain, or they could do a moratorium, and instead of commandeering or forcing the use, they could remove the use of vacation rentals.